In 2017, I started to develop my first commercial game, released it on Steam at the beginning of the following year, Caveman Stories. I planned this moment when I was going to publish my first game for a long time in my life, and it really was a fantastic experience. I learned a lot, and the game sold a lot more than I expected. Actually, many thanks to you if you're watching and played the game. You're awesome. But in 2017, when I made the game, I obviously knew a lot less than I know today, and not to mention that I was still finishing my first year of college. So when creating this game, I made several technical and design mistakes that if you play it, you will realize. So let's say that the game could be way better than it is right now, being completely honest. But it's not a lost cause, and I will explain the reason and how I will solve this problem in this video. So sit comfortable, grab a popcorn, and let's go to the story time. Caveman was not the first, nor the second, and will not be the last game I developed, and this game have an interesting story behind it, way before the Steam release. In fact, Caveman's idea came out about 4 years ago in a 3-day game jam where the goal was to make a game that could run on a Nintendo 64. Well, I didn't do very well in the jam itself because everyone made a cute game with cartoon characters, kind of similar to the essence of N64 games, and I went the other way, which was to actually make a game simulating the limitations of the time. So I made a super low poly game with no shadows, shaders, beautiful graphics, and modern gameplay features where you controlled a caveman who had to collect wood during the day to light a fire and survive the cold of the night in the Ice Age. And of course, beat and survive the tigers or saber-tooth, I don't know, scatters across the map. So in terms of the game, I loved the concept and really wanted to work more on the project. Not to mention that my best friend spent hours playing and texting me that was definitely priceless. At the end of the same year, in 2016, I refined the original Caveman in a remaster form where I basically took the game sources and completely changed the graphics, logic, added new gameplay features, and so on. It was a fantastic experience. Several people again played the game and enjoyed the project. Oh, and a quick note, since the first game, Caveman have a historic of being extremely hard to play, so take that as an advice if you want to download these old versions to try. The following year, I had to make a game for my college and I had to decide which game it will be. So I started to think, why not Caveman again? And that's how the third version of Caveman was born. Summarizing the rest of the story, after the project was completed and presented in a college, I took again the feedback I had received and made a fourth version of the game. And this one, which you might know, was the one that I finally released on Steam in early 2018, the Caveman Stories.
The world isn't the same anymore. In the past, we used to fight for food. And now, each one of us fight to survive. The enemy is silent, but powerful. It can stop the flow of a river, or even take your life painful during the night.
The game continued with the survival aspect, with a day and a night cycle, and you still needed to collect resources during the day, so you don't die because of the cold at night. The difference is that I had improved the gameplay, added enemies, some new mechanics, and introduced the story to the game. Now, talking about the bad side of the project. Honestly, the mechanics ended up being very robotic and not fluid at all. The character's movement was very strange. I probably would have done something much cooler if the game was top-down. That's why I always recommend that you make top-down games if you're starting, but I didn't knew that at the time, so my bad. Another problem is that the mechanics did not have much connection with each other. They were difficult to understand, and the proof of that is that almost no one was able to figure out how to kill the ice giant, and the ones who did figure out did not have a great experience doing it. And last but not least, the game map grew a lot, and I added more and more things to it, and at the time I had no idea how to optimize it, so it was getting a little bit slow and I had to stop adding things. Nowadays I know this will be a very easy problem to solve, but again, I didn't know that at the time. Okay, now it's time for the big announcement. As I've done the last 4 trillion times with this game, I'm going to take all the feedback I have received over the years and the new knowledge I have acquired, and I will redo the entire game again for the 5th time. And I'm going to release a free update for those who bought the game on Steam. So if you already have Caveman, it's a good idea to wait for the update and leave your positive review to help the project. And if you don't have the game yet, consider adding it to your wishlist or buy it now if you want to see how it looks like before the update and because it's still cheap since the update has not yet come out. Talking a little bit more about this update, I'm really redoing the whole game with the exception of the 3D models because these are cool, so I'm reusing almost all of them and doing some refinements and so on. But the logic, mechanics, animation, flow and style of the game are being entirely redone. A cool thing is that now the game is going to get a little bit out of that focus on survival because based on feedback, honestly, the survival aspect irritated more people than it helped. And it will go more to an adventure game, very inspired by the last God of War, which is a fantastic game. For those who like it, there will still be some survival elements. The difference is that before, it was at night after a few minutes, and if you hadn't harvested wood, built a hut, and gone to sleep, you would inevitably die of cold, which forced you to spend 100% of your time cutting trees and making huts, and now that is not going to happen anymore. Now, what is going to happen is that there may be certain places that are too cold or too dark that you cannot go healthily unless you get a torch or a clothing with cold protection. By only that new change, I think it's already worth the wishlist on Steam and buy the game to support the updates. Another thing is that now the game will have some puzzles across the map for you to solve. They will be big and you will physically interact with them using the caveman himself and his mechanics, so more good news for those who like challenges. In the next video, I will start to show you the backstage and how I redid the controls and the main mechanics of the game 100 times better, and I will also bring a basics comparison of the before and after for you to follow. So if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe so you're not gonna miss it, and please leave in the comments what you expect to see in this update. I'm Guilherme and I will see you in the next video.